Good morning.
Morning.
My name is Darcia Narvaez, chair of the program here, conference chair, and I'm very excited to see you here and for us to come together on this topic. So excited that I hardly slept last night, so hopefully you all had a good night. I just want to point out that we have a Twitter handle, so please, if you feel so moved, to use it during the conference. And I'm going to say a few words in a moment, but I'd like to give some announcements, give an introduction, but I'd first like to introduce Carrie Steiner, who is going to give a welcome. So please come. More volume? More volume needed. Thank you, Darcia.
Good morning, everyone. I really, truly am honored to be here and be part of this conference this next few days, and I'm excited to see what lies ahead. I'm the director of the Native American Indian Affairs Commission here in the state of Indiana, and I'm fortunate to be able to serve the Native population through my role there. We have 5 focus group areas. Our governor seated our commission in August of 2014, and the 5 areas that we focus on are employment, education, housing, health, and civil rights. Our funding source is generated through the sale of the Native American license plate. So if you're an Indiana resident and feel so inclined to want to purchase the Native American license plate, we promise that that money will be put to good use. One of the first programs that we did was to hold a Heritage Month event last November, and over 850 students from across Indiana joined us in a cultural experience that they might not have otherwise had an opportunity to be part of. And we are grateful to the Pokagon Band Potawatomi for providing their dance troupe, as some of you got to see yesterday. Truly a beautiful experience. A lot of good feedback from the students and teachers who attended. One of our first initiatives when I started was to create education scholarships. And I was really happy to say that we launched that program at the beginning of this past summer. We awarded 5 summer school scholarships. One was right here at Notre Dame. So, and then we awarded our academic year scholarships just a couple weeks ago. We've got several other things that we've got in the hopper right now. We've served over 1,000 homeless veterans across northern part of Indiana, and we'll be focusing on the southern part of the state in the next 6 to 8 months. We are in the process of placing bicentennial memorial stones at 11 locations around the state as part of our Bicentennial Legacy project. For those who are not Indiana residents, Indiana is celebrating their 200 years of statehood. So we are going to place memorial stones that honor and recognize the tribes who occupied this land before it became a state. We have also started working on a project that is of particular interest to me just because of the cultural connotations that go along with it. There are 7 geographical features across Indiana that contain the word squaw in their name. So we are working to get those renamed, and we're going to be working with the tribes to help come up with alternative names. I know the Pokagon Band has already done a similar activity in their area, so we look to them for some guidance on that. And lastly, one of the big programs that we're working on is creating grants for teachers to provide transportation costs so they can take their students on field trips to places around Indiana that have a Native American connection. Prophetstown, the Mound State Parks, places like that where the children can go and get an education and cultural understanding and awareness that will hopefully dispel some of the myths that go along with being Native or being Indian. So this is just a few of the things that we're working on. Again, I'm excited to be here. Thank you very much for having me, and I look forward to hearing what all of you have to say. Thank you.
Taino ti. My family, again, my name is Darcia Narvaez, the coordinator of the conference. My family recently found out, which we long suspected, that we have native blood and from Puerto Rico. So I just said, may the Great Spirit be with you in Taino, Taino ti. So I will just make an introduction here to the conference. We have a few changes in the program. You see there is a handout as part of your program packet. Today, Monday morning, we do not have Penny Spikins speaking. Her work will be online. She was unable to join us. But Marcus Winchester from the Pokagon Band will speak for about a half an hour this morning. And I'll make other announcements later. But just wanted to go through a few things here. First, I have a long-standing interest in figuring out how to help people live virtuous lives, and recently came to the conclusion that the indigenous perspective and way of life is necessary for that. My work has been in moral development, moral education, ethics in that area, which typically doesn't think about the earth too much, which of course is missing who we are as human beings, as earth creatures. So we know that our dominant culture is destroying our Mother Earth. If you look around, instead of the wonderland that technology is supposed to have brought us, as Thomas Berry pointed out, it's a wasteland, really. If you look everywhere, and every ecosystem is under duress from human activity, the United Nations has reported. And really, so we can see that it's the dominant culture, its attitudes, beliefs, institutions, and practices that are the problem, because it's not a human issue, because many humans live sustainably without these destructive practices and attitudes and behaviors. So many First Nations or indigenous peoples of the world lived wisely and sustainably for generations. For example, the Aboriginal peoples of Australia, their societies are over 60,000 years old, the same kind of practices during that time. Same with the Kung of the Huansi of southern Africa. Evidence shows that they've been around for at least 40,000 years, the same kinds of cultural practices. So we're here to figure out how to bridge the gap between that kind of wisdom, the indigenous wisdom that we see in our cousins. Many of them are being destroyed as we speak, and their homelands destroyed, as the Standing Rock Sioux situation in the Dakotas. But we need to come together if we're going to save ourselves as a species, as in our planetary ecological systems, to figure out how to get back to that wisdom with what we know now from our contemporary science and our contemporary knowledge. We can say that there are really only two worldviews. Robert Redfield really came to this conclusion. One worldview sees the earth, life as unified, sacred, and moral. The other sees it as fragmented, disenchanted, and amoral. These are kind of the two basic worldviews that are clashing. The one, the fragmented one, of course, is the dominant culture now that has gripped us for the last, gradually over the last 10,000 years, but especially in the last 500 years, has taken over the planet. And you can see some of the characteristics between these two worldviews. The dominant worldview considers that only humans really have spirit, whereas the indigenous view Spirit pervades everything. The dominant worldview emphasizes humans as above all, superior, separate from nature, whereas the indigenous view sees no separation, sees no superiority, but sees mutual relatedness with all. Humans are the pinnacle achievement of evolution or creation, whatever story you take up in the dominant view, whereas in the indigenous view, humans are the younger siblings that have much to learn from the plants and animals and rocks and rivers and mountains that are much older than humans are. And characteristically, there are many other things that could be put on these lists, but I just point out these. Characteristically, the dominant culture fosters individuals who are restless. They do not feel at home anywhere. Now, this is not everyone, this is just characteristically. Whereas the indigenous raise people to feel at home on the earth. These are key differences that have brought us in part to our crisis we have today. So we have many wonderful speakers this week who will give us some insights into these worldviews, into how we can bridge the gap, give us more in-depth knowledge of that indigenous perspective. So we have several speakers talking about history, and you'll notice that the program has speakers divided into topic areas. Some people had to be moved around for travel schedules and all, so what I have up here is a little different than what's in your program. But this was the intention. So you can see a range of topics here. John Lowe already spoke yesterday afternoon, gave us a fine overview of Pokagon band history, and we have more today. Then we have a set of topics on ways of knowing and learning and Penny's, as I said, Penny's Spiken's talks will be online only. You can get them if you go to the website, Sustainable Wisdom at ND, it tells you how to access them. And we have ways of becoming and becoming virtuous with a wonderful set of speakers again, and ways of healing and spirituality. And Winona LeDuc joins us tomorrow evening. Ways of doing science and relating to nature. These are quite critical issues, since science is one of the dominant paradigms driving destruction of the planet. How do we do science without destroying? Ways of leadership and communal life, getting us back on track as human beings. And then finally, we integrate art, wisdom, and transformation throughout our conference with different opportunities. Our artist in residence, Anthony Chi Emerson, will be, he's actually the artist for the program design. The painting we use there, Placing Stars. And he will present his work on Wednesday evening when we have a celebration of what we've learned and moving forward. Kim Blazer, our poet in residence, will present her poem for the conference at that Wednesday evening celebration, and also give a presentation on Thursday along with Dylan Miner. We want to thank our sponsors, over 30 units on Notre Dame's campus, plus the Pokagon Band of the Potawatomi. All these people show us, their support shows us how vital this concern of sustainable wisdom is across the Notre Dame campus. You can see this list in your program. And I want to thank the planning committees that helped It couldn't have been done without all these members and without my colleague, Brian Collier, who I'll call up in a moment. This was a joint communal effort. Our conference schedule in general will be 45 minutes or so for presenters, followed by 10 minutes of questions, discussion, so that we have a few-minute break before every speaker, so you can run out, get some more food, go to the bathroom, and so on, stretch your legs. We'll try to keep to this schedule. Let me just make a couple of other announcements regarding the schedule. We'd like the speakers and elders to sit up here with the microphone areas. These microphones are on, so be careful what you say when you're sitting in front of them. They're also delicate, so don't play with them. Right. Students will be coming in and out of the auditorium throughout the conference. We ask that students do this quietly, but they're coming during class periods where they have been assigned to come, or coming at will when they have a chance. We welcome them and encourage their questions as well. So you see there's 2 standing microphones in the auditorium, also upstairs. Those are for questions from the audience. And again, the speakers and elders can sit up front and use the microphones in front of them. The other replacement in the program is Wednesday, and I'll mention that again on Wednesday. Instead of Megan Bang, who had to withdraw, we have David Abram giving a second talk on magic and the machine. So now without further ado, I would like to invite my colleague, let me just say welcome here, my colleague Brian Collier, to introduce our first speaker, Marcus Winchester, who will speak about Pokagon band culture.
Well, thanks so much for being here, and to those of you that have made trips from afar, welcome to Notre Dame. And really happy to be helping host this conference, and so glad that we have the opportunity to talk about Indigenous wisdom, and hope that we can find ways to do so without essentializing Native peoples, and remembering that these are distinct cultures as we go forward.